Welcome, my friends. Welcome to my world. I'm your host, Kevin Rutherford. It is Monday, October 10th. We are here live. It is a free-for-all kind of day. It means anything goes. If you have a question, a comment, a topic, anything at all you want to talk about, pick up the phone and join us. We're opening those phone lines right now, 855-950-3835. We can talk about trucks, money, fuel mileage, maintenance, tires, taxes, technology, health and fitness on the road, getting started as an owner-operator, finding freight, working with brokers, getting your authority, you name it. We'll talk about it. All you have to do is pick up the phone and join us. We'll get to those calls here in just a little bit, so line them up, 855-950-3835. It's all about whatever it is you want to talk about today. I'm going to talk a little bit about the economy, maybe a couple other things, just depends on when the calls start coming in. So if we really look at all the economic indicators that we're seeing right now, that we've been seeing for the last year or more, even we've seen a pattern starting to set up for about the last 3 or 4 years, actually. All of the indicators were negative. All of the indicators are pointing to a recession, whether we're talking about bond yields or virtually every number you look at, inflation, just about everything. Earnings, the earnings season, we're starting to see it in earnings now. Virtually everything is pointing towards a recession. We've been saying that for a while. We may now be seeing that final piece of the puzzle. The one number that this administration points to when it wants to say, oh, the inflation really isn't a problem, or it's transitory, or it's going to go away, or, well, wages are up, or whatever. This administration would point to the jobs numbers and say, but look, how can we be in a recession if the jobs numbers are so strong? And in a sense, they were correct. That's an unusual thing. When all these other markers are signaling recession, except the jobs numbers weren't. We may be seeing the beginning of that right now. So remember, we look at trucking numbers and trucking data, financial data, as what we call a leading economic indicator. So there are lots of numbers we look at to see what's going on in our economy. Some are what we call leading indicators. Some are trailing indicators. Some tell us what's going on currently in the market. Trucking, for the most part, tends to be what we call a leading indicator. So we watch what's happening in trucking because there's a good chance that that will follow in the general economy. So when rates are up in trucking, which they had been for years, several years now, eventually that leads to inflation in the entire economy, which is what we've seen happen. That's where we are now. Now, though, we're starting to see another trend in trucking, and this may be a leading economic indicator. For the rest of the economy, hiring new people is pretty solid. For the rest of the economy. So they added 263,000 jobs in September, and that was actually a sign that their attempt to slow down the economy with the raising interest rates might be working. Trucking, though, lost 11,400 jobs. So the economic indicators in trucking are actually confusing right now. I said September, we actually set a record for truck orders. Well, if you're going to buy trucks, you better have drivers to fill the seats. So fleets seem to be buying more trucks, but hiring fewer drivers. We talked about on Friday how this is going to be a really, really tough economy for fleets. Fleets have got some really interesting challenges. It's going to get very interesting when you look at what's happened with truck prices. They've gone through the roof, and these fleets got stuck in a cycle where they need to replace equipment now. They've gone beyond their typical trade-in cycles. I think that's why we're seeing these big orders, or at least we saw big orders in September. It could be that they haven't been able to get trucks, and now some order slots are opening, and as soon as those slots open, it seems like they're being filled again. So fleets are in a position where they're going to have to spend a lot of extra money right now. They're buying new equipment that's very expensive. We've got another round of emission standards coming up that may be driving these truck orders. But during the last 3 years, drivers' wages have gone up significantly. And you can't take that back. You know, we were talking about that the whole time it was happening. And you really didn't have much choice. If you wanted to keep drivers in the seat, decent drivers, not great drivers, just if you wanted to keep decent drivers in the seat, you had to raise pay. Everybody was doing it. And it was, it was doable because the rates were high. We're going to have to see what happens right now. Rates have pulled back. They're not horrible. They're probably at their 2018 levels, but it's going to be challenging. And we're probably already seeing that. We're seeing fewer trucking jobs because we're already hearing about bankruptcies in trucking, and you're going to see more mergers and acquisitions during a time like this. So trucking companies being bought usually to get the equipment and the drivers. That's usually what the reason trucking companies are bought. It's not necessarily for the freight or the customers. Many times it's for the trucks and the drivers and the trailers, the equipment. So we'll keep an eye on that. That is definitely an indicator of what might be coming for the economy. Now, to tie into that, one of the opens I've been working on, I keep starting to bring it up, and then we get calls, and I switch over to the calls, which is fine. I will probably sit down at some point and just do a recording of this. We started moving some of our shows to recorded podcasts last week. We did the first episode of The Pit that way. It will be the same this week. And then there are other shows and segments that I want to start doing as a podcast kind of thing. We'll always keep our live Q&A 5 days a week. That's not going away. That's going to stay the same. But we're going to be adding some shows and adding in some podcasts so I can cover some other topics. One of the ideas, and I've talked about this many times, but I'm a big believer in this, that if you want to increase your odds of success in business, if you're going to get into business and you want to increase your odds of success, there are lots of things you can do. One of them is choose when you start. Like most things in life, we tend to get this backwards. We've talked about the stock market. When people are talking about the stock market, when you're hearing the cashier at Starbucks or the grocery store talk about the stock market, that's usually when it's time to get out. Real estate, investing in real estate, when people were buying spec homes and flipping them and making a profit doing it, when everybody starts talking about that, it's time to get out. We do the opposite, though. That's when the average person starts investing, and they do it at the wrong time. Then the market turns around like it is now. Then they see all the money they lost in their account, and they pull all the money out. We all know it's simple math. In order to make an investment work, you buy that investment at a low price, you sell it at a higher price. It's the only way it works. Unless you're talking about stocks that pay dividends, that's a whole different animal. But you buy low, sell high. We all know that. It's third grade math. Yet we tend to do the opposite. We tend to buy high when everybody's excited about the market. Then the market tanks because we were at the top. And then we see our value of our account go down. And what do? We panic at some point. Oh my God, it's not going to stop. And then we sell. Exact opposite of what we should be doing. The same thing, like I said, in real estate, happens the same way. When everybody's talking about it, when everybody has a story about how their brother-in-law just made $100,000 in a month by flipping a house, that's when everybody starts doing it. That's when it's the most difficult time to make money. There's lots of competition. So just like we tend to get most of our investment strategies completely backwards, many people do the same thing when they get into business. It seems logical that we should want to get into business when business is good, when the economy is booming. Isn't that when we should want to get in? Isn't that where the opportunities are? Well, yes and no. I mean, there's always opportunities in business. You could always get into business and succeed. I've said many times it's not about what the economy is doing. It's more about what you're doing. So, yes, you can start a business at the top of an economy and succeed. I'm not saying you can't, but that's not the really important factor, and everybody thinks it is, and they would rather start a business when things look good. I've always said the opposite. I would rather start a business when things are bad, and I have several times. The current business form that it's in right now, Let's Truck, we started in 2007. So, our first 12 months, we were into one of the biggest recessions we had seen in a long time. 08 and 09 were pretty rough. But we managed to make it through that time. I believe there are a lot of advantages to starting in business when the economy is bad. Here's the thing we have to remember. If we're going into business, you have to know at some point you're going to face a bad economy. That's going to happen. It always has, it always will. We have business cycles. Well, if we know we're going to have to go through that, shouldn't we be planning the business to make sure we can get through it? But we don't, because we tend to start the business when things are really good. And if we bother to put numbers together, a lot of people don't even bother. But if you manage or you attempt to put some numbers together and the economy is really good, well, it's a lot easier to look at those numbers and say, oh yeah, see, this is going to work. And it's a lot easier to make it work when rates are good and there's plenty of volume of freight everywhere. It's fairly easy at that point. But then what are you going to do when things turn around and rates aren't as good and there isn't as much freight? There aren't as many opportunities. Expenses are higher, significantly higher. Fuel went through the roof again last week. They're talking about the economy and they're talking about gas prices going back up because OPEC has now decided to limit production, and we can't help much here because we're not drilling for much of our own oil these days. So prices are on their way back up fuel-wise. Everybody's talking about gas. Nobody's talking about diesel, and diesel went up a lot last week. We still have part shortages. The parts we can get are more expensive. It's going to be a very, very challenging environment, but you have to go through it no matter when you start. So doesn't it make more sense, if possible, to start in a down economy? Don't be afraid of starting in a down economy by any stretch. We should almost look forward to it. There are other advantages to it as well. One, like I said, you're going to have to face these kinds of economies if you're in business. You're going to have to learn how to do business in a really challenging environment. The way I approach it, you might as well do it right at the very beginning. And we know then that things can only get better. That's the biggest advantage to starting a business in a down economy or where we are right now, just heading into a down economy. The biggest advantage is you're forced to learn how to do business in that economy, and then things can only get better. So where are we right now? Would I be starting a business today? No, not like officially putting it into business and going out and looking for work, but I would start the process. And this is the other big advantage that we don't talk about a lot. That is, you won't need to be in a hurry to do anything right now. You can just take your time, create a good, solid business plan, and then work that plan. That's a huge advantage. You know, when everything is booming, when rates were through the roof and everybody was bragging about how much money they were making, and remember, they were sticking it to the brokers, and life was good. But when you try to get into business during a time like that, you rush everything. Everything seems so urgent. Oh, look at all these rates. Look at the money. And you just buy the first truck you find. You either just grab your own authority or you lease onto the first carrier somebody tells you is a good deal. And then you just start working. And in our business, you can work an awful lot. You can put in a lot of hours, and you just keep chasing those rates. And then before you know it, you look up and the economy's not doing so good. Rates are starting to pull back. There isn't as much volume, and expenses are going up, and you don't know why it's getting harder to pay your bills at home. And it's getting harder to pay the bills at home because, one, you may be grossing more. I kind of doubt it. You're probably already grossing a little less, and you're spending a lot more. And you don't know where because you don't have a good accounting system. You just know that you're paying all the bills for the trucks, but it's getting harder and harder to pay the bills at home. That's the problem with starting at the top. So start at the bottom, where we are right now. Now, I would say, and in my program, I do a whole chapter on getting ready, getting set up. The good news here is you can take your time. I even created a scoring system so you know what that timeline should be. How long should you take to get into business? And right now, I would say I wouldn't want to do anything major for probably the next 6 months. I think the next 6 months is going to show us a lot. Or, maybe the first, we're about there anyway, but I was going to say about the first 6 months of 2023, I think really should get pretty interesting. We're still seeing numbers right now that don't make a lot of sense. We talked the other day about truck prices. Why truck prices are still so high. That seems a little crazy. I don't think that's going to last long. We've certainly talked about real estate. I don't think that's going to last. So we'll keep an eye on this, but I would think that during the next 6 months is not going to be the time to actually pull the trigger. But what it is time for, what it's time for right now is to start putting your plan together. And that, like I said, the good news here, you won't have to rush. You can just take your time. If you want to take my course, you should. If you're even thinking about becoming an owner-operator anytime, if you've just had the thought, even if you don't have a timeline, if you've just had the thought that you might want to consider being an owner-operator, you should take the course. The first couple of chapters, I do everything I can to talk you out of it. I really kind of lay out what this really means, what it means to be in business, what it means to buy a truck and get started. And many times we take this way too lightly. We've made it so easy in this industry with, lease purchases, just sign on the dotted line. If you can fog a mirror, they'll give you a $200,000 truck. We've made it so easy. And I'm okay with that. I like the fact that it's easy to get into business, but because it's so easy, most people won't prepare very well. What I'm telling you is right now is the time to prepare. In fact, I could almost guarantee your success if you start now and do it right. In the program, I actually have you score yourself, and then based on that score, I set a timeline, and I give you step by step what you should be doing to get ready. And if you think about it, over the last 3 or 4 years, you probably haven't heard me talk a lot about that program. Really, not that much. You're probably going to hear me talk about it a lot more now because I really think now is the time. And for me, and I've been through, how many of these cycles have I been through? Well, it's interesting because, like I said, I started this part of the business and the radio show in 2007. So technically, giving advice, this is only the second big downturn we're looking at. Since I've been on the air anyway, I guess not giving advice because I started doing seminars back in the late 90s. So 3 full business cycles since I started giving advice. This one, I really believe, is going to be deeper and longer than the last 2. In 08, 09, that was a pretty tough time. 2001, we've been through these cycles before, and I see the same thing happen every time. It doesn't have to be that way, and now is the time. Like I said, if you start now, and then you can take your time on every one of these steps. You can take your time to get your finances in order. You can take your time to get an accounting system set up. You can take your time and find the right truck for you. You can decide and take your time, do you want to get your own authority? That's a big, big decision right now. Over the last couple of years, it wasn't that big of a decision because the rates were so good. There was so much freight. It's a much bigger decision now. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but it's certainly going to be more challenging if you decide to do this with your own authority. You can take your time on that. If you decide you want to lease to a carrier, you have lots of time. I have a whole process in there for choosing a carrier that could take you months. Could take months to find the right carrier if you do it right. But there's a big advantage to doing this now because you won't feel rushed. You'll be able to take your time on each one of these steps. That alone can just about guarantee your success. So if you've ever thought about becoming an owner-operator, you want to talk about it, now's the time. Pick up the phone, give me a call. If you want to talk about anything else, there's obviously a lot going on. Pick up the phone. Phone lines are open. We're going to start taking your calls right now. 855-950-3835. We're going to head off to Texas to get started. Fred, welcome to the program.
Hey, Kevin. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. What's on your mind today? Hey, I think it is going to be a happy Monday. I just happened to look.
You got some wind?
It looks like we're going to have a big wind day today. We're talking.
All right. There you go.
Yeah, we're talking 24 knots out, or 24 miles an hour out where I'm looking at going. So big winds.
You better park the car a couple miles away instead of a mile.
That's right. That's right.
So first thing I wanted to expand on your open and give some of these fairly new owner-operators and those who are going to be an owner-operator some insight of what happens sometimes even when you can prepare. So I've been doing this 30 plus years. And I've had my ups and downs like everyone else has. So I just laid out a pretty substantial chunk on a trailer. Don't even have the trailer yet out of the shop because the whole suspension was getting rebuilt when I bought it. So that was kind of in the deal. And now Thursday I'm going up to the shop now. It looks like number 4 piston just let loose and kind of blew apart inside the engine.
Oh boy.
On Friday.
Oh.
So here I am. I laid out $45,000 cash for a trailer. Now I got to do an engine rebuild.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay. So this is trucking, folks. Listen, I'm going to be fine. Of course, my stress level is kind of off the charts, as I posted over the weekend. My subconscious is still working. I can't stop it from thinking the way it wants to think, and I'm getting a lot of stress overnight. And I guess that's just par for the course because, I'm not able to earn right now, but I have to lay out all kinds of money.
Yeah. It's a tough time.
So, but yeah, I mean, if you're not somewhat prepared, you could be sitting in my seat. It happens to everybody. I mean, it happens to the best of us. So, I do oil samples. I had no engine wear, but the engine has 1,000,001 on it.
Yeah.
It's a 12.7 Detroit.
Yep.
I got it with 400 and change. It was a company truck, so I don't know how well it was taken care of.
Yeah, we can't see catastrophic failures coming. We have no clue. They just
right, and of course, I turn the screws to it, so I'm putting out some pretty substantial horsepower and torque for the engine. I drive it responsible. I mean, that's not, but
yeah,
a truck for half the life, you don't know how it was taken care of, the engine, and you're putting the screws to it and you're running it. Things happen.
Yep. Yeah, and I've talked about this before, but I think back and I've said it was probably the best thing that happened to me business-wise, but it certainly didn't feel like it at the time. It was a horrible couple of years. I tried to grow way too fast. I'm going back to, I bought my first truck, and before a year was up, I bought my second truck. And within 5 years, I had 11 trucks. We were running a brokerage. We had a service truck that we had put together to do oil change and washes. I was a partnership in another deal with 2 other guys we had a heavy haul and 11 axle trailer set up. We were doing that. I was working like 20 hours a day. I mean, it was just stupid. And I didn't know what I was doing. But it seemed, there was so much money coming in. Here I was, in my mid-20s, just all kinds of money coming in every week. The problem was it was going out even faster than it was coming in. And then just a series of really bad stuff all happened at once. And it was the beginning of the end. We ended up, I had started that business with one of my brothers, and we had to split that all up. And I went back to driving because I had to. We went from 11 trucks and all that stuff going on. I ended up with 2 trucks when it was all said and done. And they were the 2 trucks that were at FedEx, and they were doing the best, but I had to go back to driving them for a while. And it was just one of those things. We actually lost 3 engines in one summer. All 3 cats. We were running mostly cat engines back then. And, one of them was just time, and we kind of expected that one. One of them, though, it got hot, and the driver didn't shut it down, and we lost an engine that way. Didn't expect that one. And then another one, and it was one of our mechanics, didn't put a drain plug back in right. And we lost a oil plug, and you didn't have all those shutdowns. So 3 engines within a couple months of each other. And then you've got all that downtime. And so that was tough. And then at the time, about 90% of all the miles we did was just pure Ohio. There was a lot of money to be made just staying in Ohio. And your base plate back then, if you only wanted to run Ohio, you could get a base plate for like $400 a year. So I think 8 of our 11 trucks had Ohio base plates, just Ohio only.
Right.
And that year, that weird law that Ohio had about that changed. And even if you wanted to stay in Ohio, you were going to pay that full price, $1,100 plus for your base plates times 8. That was another huge hit. Yep. It was just stuff like that just kept coming. And then fuel,
Well,
of all
yeah,
things,
right.
we're talking fuel was 80 and 90 some cents a gallon during this time. And then all of a sudden it
Right,
shot up.
right. I remember those times.
Yeah, it shot up to like $1.40 out of the blue, and you think, oh, $1.40, big deal. Well, when you're used to 80 or 90 cents, $1.40 was a huge deal, and that was when we
And you're running a half dozen trucks.
yeah, and that's when we first started understanding what a fuel surcharge was because we went over $1.25, but that was a really tough
Right.
time.
Well, I kind of have somewhat of a similar story. I was kind of doing a specialized where I had some straight trucks and some tanker trucks doing heating oil. And the company I was working with, which was in business for, I mean, 50, 60 years, wind up selling to a larger conglomerate. And they came to us and said, well, we can't use your 11 trucks. We can only use 2.
Ooh, yeah,
What am I
that's
going
tough.
to do with the other?
Yeah,
Yeah. What am I going to do with the, so now I have to try to find people to buy these trucks. I had a couple of tractors that I had working with the flatbeds that I had partners at the time. It was a mess. And, and the partners, because we were making money, they wanted to do all kinds of crazy things within the company, being
Right.
from New York, with that lifestyle. I mean, and I'm looking at them. I'm like, listen, I just need out. I just need out, guys.
Yeah.
I'll take a cup, and that's what happened. It was a bad breakup. They wound up doing some funny accounting, which was legal, and they put me on a hook for $196,000 in taxes. How's that?
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah. So, I mean, life. I had a good buyout, so that I was able not to have the IRS as my partner for long, but it did bring me back to almost square one.
Yeah.
And I had to restart, and that was back in 07, 08 when I restarted, and the bottom fell out a year into me starting.
Yeah. That's business. Yep. This is what happens.
Life has a way of throwing curves at you. Yeah.
That's
so
right.
I just want people to know that even when you think you're in optimum situations, like you thought you were and I thought I was, here I was making. I mean, I thought I was a gangster. The money I was making.
I know.
You know what I mean? I mean, I was making serious money. Leasing a Mercedes Benz for $1,400 a month. I mean, an S class. I mean, no 300. I'm talking about an S class.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'm living amongst these guys that are depicted in the movies. You got to hang out with these guys and do what these guys do. So.
Yeah.
What do and I'm a businessman. I'm not one of those guys.
Right. Yeah. No, I think we're about to we're about to witness a lot more of these types of stories.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's really the way. And it just starts with bad policy decisions. That listen, you're going to have downturns in the economy regardless. It's just a natural flow of things. But when you have a policy decisions that really kind of hurt business, and then you have, the Federal Reserve doing all of these monetary changes in hyper speed, and you don't have anything helping that along, we're going to be in for a pretty rough ride, I think. And that's what I'm getting from a lot of the talking heads, a lot of the analysts, a lot of the, pretty much everywhere.
All the signs seem to be there. The stock market is finally starting to show its pattern. Last week we had a couple big days, really big days, and people get optimistic. Oh, no, look, see, this is over already. Oh, it's not over. It hasn't even started yet. These are the signs that it's just starting, not that it's over. And those couple of days did not hold up at all. That those couple of days is what we could refer to as a dead cat bounce. If you drop a dead cat from a, high enough up, it'll bounce a little bit. But it doesn't last long. It bounces and then it falls right back down.
Well,
and that's kind of what the market's doing.
They say that these are these bear market rallies.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? Is that what this is?
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, exactly. And they don't hold up. It's usually big institutional traders realigning their portfolios, getting out of bad positions, But a lot
Yeah,
of
the big
times,
money men.
a lot of times that generates a buying rally, and then the amateurs think, "Oh, look, this is all over. We're on our way back up." This is why you can't time the market.
Right.
This is why timing the market
Right.
is a really bad idea, because when we're on our way down, it is really volatile. It's not a straight down. It's down for several days. Then, oh, look,
Right.
we're rallying, and we get these couple of big days, and then it's down,
Right.
and then we're rallying, and then it hangs out for a while. And on the way back up, it'll do the same thing. And because of that, you never
Right.
know
It's kind of like
when to buy and when to sell.
Right. It's kind of like when it comes back up, it never comes quite as far. So you're always in a losing situation.
Exactly. Yeah.
What people don't realize, it's sort of like the frog in a warm pot of water. Before the frog knows it, it's boiling around him and he's gone.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. It's a death by 1,000 cuts when you think you keep. But there's another strategy here where if you have some cash on the sidelines, you might be able to wait a few months and get in and start dollar cost averaging and really build a portfolio as well.
The best thing, because I like to stay optimistic. I don't want to come on here every day with bad news. I'm going to, because I think the news is going to be bad for a while. But mixed in with that bad news, the one thing to remember is this is always when opportunities are about to happen. You know what I'm really kind of tired of? I started saying, look, there's no place to go but down back in like 2017. So at that point, I said, I'm not making any big financial decisions. I did buy some real estate during that time, but I said, I'm just going to sit back and wait. That's 5 years. I'm kind of tired of sitting back and waiting. I'm finally ready for something to happen. Let's get on with this. Let's get to the next step. Let's start the adjustments.
I've made a comment that my son, who's 19, just starting his stuff, he's working as a cashier in a grocery store here, and he's making $15 an hour. And it's Texas. It's not like a minimum wage of $15 an hour. It's a pretty good company.
Yeah,
he's in. And so, he wanted this high-end gaming computer. It was $2,500. And I told him, I said, since you're really doing well and you're, doing this yourself, I didn't help him with anything. I just gave him some advice. I said, what we'll do is, I'll buy the computer for you and give me $200 a month. I said, the first time you miss, I'm taking the computer out. It's mine.
Yeah.
Don't want to hear nothing about it. Right. And I said, I showed him how to do it. So then what I did was I did that for about 5 months with him. And I told him, I said, I said to myself, what I'm going to do for this kid? I'm going to set up a Roth IRA for him. And his grandmother gave him some money. I said, give me a couple dollars. I set up a Roth, and I told him, the $200 a month that you're going to give me is going to go into this fund. You're going to pay it right to that for yourself. And he's 19. I want him to start buying into this market. I want him to start preparing for his future. Things that I never was told.
Right.
That I was never told. I mean, I didn't know anything. I just figured, I'll outwork any bad situation. And here I am, 54.
Yeah, exactly.
How long can I work?
Right. Yeah.
So, I'm trying to give him some insight. And we were talking over the weekend. He says, so how long do I have to pay into this? I said, if I were you, I would just keep paying into it for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Yeah, because if you start paying in that early and you just, put your head down, go to work every day, put the money in every month, at some point, and when you're 19, I know this seems like forever, but if we could say to them at 45, you will probably be able to make some decisions about whether you want to retire that early or start a business or who knows what you might want to do, but you'll have the money to do it. It'll happen fast. And to them, it's like fast. 45, my God, I'm never going to be 45. That's what you think when you're 19. But when you're 60 and you think, wow, what if I could have been able to retire when I was 45?
Yeah, I always say to people, I'm going to slow down eventually. I don't know if I want to be able to retire, but I don't know if I'll want to retire. So in this business, it's one of those things where I can do a load a month, every twice a month, and And if I'm physically capable, and I hope I know when I'm not physically capable, and I know when I'm not able to drive. But hopefully I can do this for the next 15 years and still enjoy myself.
Yeah, exactly. And that is the beauty
I'm on a good path
of this business.
Getting the health in order.
Yeah, not all businesses are like that. Now, you can't just, kind of keep some businesses going part-time. It doesn't work. But this one, it does. You could keep a truck and trailer. And like you said, you could do one load a month if you feel like it. And think about how cool it is to, now, because many of us that have been driving, we've seen the whole country. But have you really seen it? I talked about this the other day. I'm really looking forward to taking the train to Memphis. I'd love the train because I get to be a passenger. I get to just watch. All those years of driving. I was going to call
you on Friday, and I got yeah. One of our great presidents, Ronald Reagan, used to take the train all over the country when he did his seminars way before he became a politician. And he used to read a lot on the train, and that's changed his mind from becoming a Democrat to becoming a Republican.
Yeah, I don't see that. I don't think I'm going to change many political views. No, right. But the same thing. I look forward to it. I can
his own political view.
I can read. I can, like I said, see the scenery that I've driven past many, many times, but never got to really look at and see it. And I could work on the presentation because it's been a couple of years. So I'm just really looking forward to that. So think about being retired with a truck. Pick a spot in the country that you want to go visit and just grab a load and head that way.
Yes, please. That's what I say. Before I got into this health, where I was eating everything under the sun, and I was my whole plan was get a 110-inch sleeper and do those diners, drive-ins, and dives that Guy Fieri does.
There you go. That's right. That's right.
But now I'm not going to do that. But I still want to see parts of the country for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
So, So, so these it's really wearing me out, this whole thing. I think I'll be better today once I get my head wrapped around a plan of action this week. I don't know if I'm going to be doing the work or they're going to do the work for me. I got to figure all of that out because they have their own things going on. And these guys are good to me. They don't mind if I use their shop for things like this as well.
Right.
So,
that's nice.
Today is one of those regrouping days.
There you
Figuring out exactly what went wrong and to
where you
get
go
a plan of action with the shop of the owner. Yeah.
Where are you going to go from here? All right. Well, we'll look forward to hearing the plan once you come up with it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I've been doing the stress protocol. I'm going to do that all week and get my health back in order, the diet back in order all week long, and try to go forward with that also.
Excellent. All right. Talk to you soon. We're going to head off to Nebraska this time. David, welcome to the program.
Hi, Kevin. Thanks for taking my call.
What's on your mind today?
Well, I just found out, I don't want to mention any names, but I just found out the company that I've been working for just got bought out by a larger company that has a bad history with drivers.
Okay.
And I don't intend to work for them. My big question is I have quite a sizable 401k plan, and I don't want to roll it over to this company.
Okay.
And I don't know what to do.
Got it. Okay. That's an easy one. So this is actually a good time. Switching companies and jobs always pretty traumatic. There's a lot going on. But I actually like this when you've got a retirement account because it's your opportunity to get control of that money. So no matter how good the plan might be in the new company, I still like to take that opportunity to just roll this. Instead of rolling it to the new company, just roll it to your own IRA. We'll talk about how to do that. It's really easy. And then you can start, if the new company has a new plan or wherever you're going, then that's fine. We just start a new one up and keep doing what we were doing before. But it gets that money into our hands. It's not in somebody else's control anymore. So here's really all this requires. You're going to pick a mutual fund company. Vanguard, would come to mind for me as a good one. There are several out there. They're basically all the same. We could get into who has lower fees and that kind of thing. But for the most part, we're going to pick a mutual fund company, and you're going to call them, and you're going to say, I've got a 401k and I want to roll it over, and they are going to be happy to do all of this for you. They make it super easy because they want your money. I mean, they want the account. So, yeah, they make this really easy. One phone call, and they will tell you exactly what you need to do step by step to roll this into your own IRA, and then you can choose where you're going to invest that money.
I like that.
Yeah, it's really easy.
So that eases my mind. I've been a little worried. I realize today's a holiday, but I've been a little worried. I called the office and they haven't picked up the phone until I get just a message.
Yeah, so the way we do this is we don't care where the money is right now. We're not going to deal with the people that have the money currently. We're just going to ignore them. We start this process. This is where a lot of people get kind of whacked out on this process. They think they need to start with the people that have the money now. We don't. We don't want to start there. They have no incentive to transfer your money out of their account to some other account. They have no incentive to do that, so we don't want to work with them. So we go to the people that want your account, and we let them do this, and they will. It's what they do all day long. So we go pick a new mutual fund.
Oh, wow.
We let them do it because they have an incentive to get this done. They want that money.
Well, that's awesome news. That's way more than I knew. I just don't deal with 401ks.
Most people
take
don't.
Money out of my check.
Yep, right. Most people don't. And like I said, I love employer plans where it's on autopilot and you don't have to think about it. The money just goes in there every week. That's awesome. But if we are going to switch jobs, which is, like I said, that's a big deal. I like the fact that we can turn that into an advantage, that we can now get that money out of their hands into our hands, and then you just start a new one with your next employer.
All right, and I don't have to, once I switch that RA over, I don't have to do anything with it. It can just sit there and grow or dissipate, whatever.
You can continue to contribute if you want to, but you don't have to. Yeah, you can just let it sit there.
All right, that'll work. Well, I greatly appreciate it. I'm not worried about finding another job. I have years. I'm 60, and I've been driving since I was 19.
Oh, yeah.
You're an outstanding.
You're golden. Yeah, you never have to worry about being hungry or homeless.
Right. So, all right. Well, thank you. You really eased my mind. I haven't been able to get a hold of anybody. They announced this last Friday in an email.
Oh, yeah. That's nice. Yeah. Let's send them an email on a holiday weekend and let them guess all weekend. Who the hell came up with that plan? My gosh.
Yeah, there you go.
Unbelievable.
And I haven't been able to get a hold of it.
Yeah. Well, you are correct. You don't have any worries about a job. You can pick and choose where you want to go to work. And the good news is on the money, you're all set on that. This is going to be an easy process.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I thank you.
You're welcome.
You just eased a ton of my fears.
Good.
And I want to say I buy your products.
Thank you.
I love them. My blood sugar is normal because of the diet plan and your products.
Awesome.
So thank you for all you do for us.
You are welcome. Thanks for the support. Speaking of products in the store, holy cow, do we have a new exciting line of products in the store. For our furry friends, Stella and Chewy's, they have some of the most amazing food for dogs, like what we would call snacks and treats that dogs absolutely love, but these are all crazy healthy. Like they're made out of, freeze-dried organ meat. So there's like freeze-dried hearts. There are some liver products. The dogs just go nuts over these. And this is healthier than their food. I mean, we kind of call these snacks, but they're really, this may be the most nutrient-dense food your dog's eating. So a whole line, there's all kinds of stuff. Stella and Chewy's is in the store now. We launched it this morning. So if you've got a furry friend or two, check it out. These are great products. Another great company we're very happy to be partnering with. Let's head off to New York. Steve, welcome to the program.
Hey, good morning, Kevin. Good morning. It was good to hear Matt's numbers the other day.
Oh, wasn't that crazy?
Those were some fun.
Oh man!
I thought I'm on in line to beat his last year's numbers this year.
Yeah.
And I was just so happy about that.
Right. I know.
I'm at about 160 net, which is daggone good.
That's incredible.
I'm thrilled, but
yeah.
I'm thrilled. I'm home 3 nights a week. I'm thrilled with the situation. But
oh yeah.
But that was I just didn't. I hadn't heard Matt talking about it. I didn't know if everybody. You have to worry about a lot of these even direct customers are coming back and asking people for some breaks on the rates.
Of course.
And I haven't had that yet. I haven't had that yet either, like he hasn't. But you just never know. I mean, I do have one of my fill-ins that is like $6.50 a mile, but it's insulation. Hey, guess what? What's quit? I mean, construction has died right out. So that's I understand that. I get less of those. So the fill-in loads now, the one I got today, it's a lot less. Obviously, it's off the load board. So but what I've been doing is I've been doing 2 loads a day. I'll do a same day load, and then I'll do a next day load.
There you go.
And I've done that in the last 3 weeks. I've done it 4 times and added an extra $800-900 a day on my fill-in loads to what I would have had.
This really is a crazy time, and I look at this from our perspective of where we are in our business. We've been dealing with this inflation for over a year now, and everything keeps going up. Everything, the cost of labor, the cost of everything we buy. And we keep talking about it, and we keep saying, do we need to raise our prices? And we haven't yet on anything. We haven't raised any prices yet because right now we don't need to. I mean, certainly our profit margins are going down because our expenses are going up, and we have a certain profit margin that I like to stay above for sure. But we've had a couple of really good years, and I think a lot of businesses are in that position. Some of us haven't raised prices, and we're trying really hard not to. But it's the longer this goes, the tougher it is. But I think that's why you're seeing, the shippers aren't really pushing anybody to lower their rates. Everybody's doing okay money-wise. There was tons of money around. There's tons of business around. So, the smart businesses, I think, have been holding off, trying not to raise their prices. But at some point, we're going to have to. At some point, this is going to get more difficult. And I think we're probably there now. Because I think what will happen is our business will start to slow down enough that we'll have to raise prices to increase our margins. And it's just going to get tough for a while.
Yeah, it will, and I've taken your advice on the best. One of the best ROIs is buying up everything you can now that's going to consume in the next 2 or 3 years. And my wife, when a lot of the stuff she gets now, it's cheaper and quicker to get it by Amazon or somewhere online. And I told her, I said, whatever you're buying now, just quadruple your order.
Yeah,
I said,
that's good advice.
Next time you go back, it's going to be higher.
It's going to be higher. Yeah,
and I said, we'll find room to put it. We'll find room to put the stuff. I mean, so funny story. It wasn't because of inflation. My wife was horrified during COVID about paper shortages. So
Right.
I've got 7 cases from Sam's Club of Scott tissue up in toilet tissue up in our attic. So we bought it at a really good price at the last.
That's right. That's right.
So we didn't even know what we were doing, and we did it. And that was. But I kept telling her, I said, I think we're okay for the next year or two.
Yeah.
And, she kept, but we got plenty of paper towels and that we've got that covered for a while, and actually we're gonna utilize some of those in the Conduit to Beach for renters and all. But what I wanted to talk to you about today was ROI on something else. Is right now there's very few places that we can invest our money, and first feel safe and also have a decent return. So. A couple of months ago, I should have already called about this, but a couple of months ago, somebody turned me back on to something I hadn't heard about much since the early 80s. They're called I-bonds.
Right.
Inflation, they're U.S. Treasury bonds, inflation protected bonds. The interest rate is 9.62%. It's the inflation rate plus a certain number.
Right.
And for this next 12 months, it's 9.62%. That's what I got in my head. It may change daily. But it will, you got your money tied up for 12 months, but you can only put $10,000 on each Social Security number and each EIN number.
Right.
So we put 30,000 down, 10 on her, 10 on me, and 10 on the business, because we got, cash that we're not going to be having to spend. And we were going to have it tied up anyhow in other places. So, and we're going to have inflation for the next 3 to 4 years because it's going to be at least until 25, and then whoever takes over, it'll take a year or a year and a half to start cleaning things up. It took Reagan a year and a half to start cleaning up after Carter in 81. From 81, it was August of 82 when the stock market bottomed and started coming back up because of all the things he did in the first 20 months.
Yeah.
So it'll take the new guy. It'll be 26. We'll have inflation for the next 4 years. And you know what? In 4 years, it may not be 9.62% every year, but if inflation drops to 7, it might be 8.3 or something like that.
Well,
so anybody out there's got cash, just go for it. It's treasurydirect.com. You buy it straight from the Treasury. I'm
holding out, hoping it breaks 10. If it breaks 10, then I'm buying. But I'm definitely buying at some point. There's no doubt. Yeah. We talked about these a couple weeks ago,
and they're gonna. Yeah. Well, like I say, it's one of those that just parking some money. Now, if you need that money in 6 months, don't do it. It's 12 months tying up for, but you can, as long as you're happy with the return, the next return might not be quite as much because inflation may tick us down a bit, but it'll be for the next 4 years. That'll be just a good place to park some money. We may get back to the CD. I tell you, here's the problem: the CDs are not chasing these.
No, they're not yet.
Hikes.
They're not yet
like they did back in 79 and 80.
Right.
And back then you could get a 16%. I had a 16%. CD, and that was only out for a year.
Right.
It was even you could get like a 5-year for like 12%. And then of course Reagan brought him and Paul Volcker. They brought the inflation rate down quickly.
Right. Right. And we had a long booming economy after that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting some I-bonds. You mentioned. August of 1982, when the market bottomed that time, I was on my way to basic training at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. Yep.
Oh, and by the way, you mentioned the early 90s on Black Friday. It was October the 19th, 1987.
87.
A couple of weeks ago, you mentioned it.
That's
Black Friday and Black Monday. Yep.
Yeah, that's not the one I'm thinking of, though. So there must have been.
That was the one where we dropped 28% in one day.
Yeah, I do remember that one.
The market in one day.
I do remember that.
Yeah, that was the one that. Yeah.
Wait, what was the date on that one?
That turned out to be a hell of a. For the October 19th of 1987. And actually, 1987, with that 28% drop for one day, still ended up positive by 1 or 2% in the markets for the year.
Yeah.
So it had an early run up before that. That brought it back down some, and then that was a bounce. It bounced back from that. That was when they started putting in these limits on how much selling could be done at one time. But they had started having machines starting to work at that point, just barely, and they found out that the machines will sell quickly, and that's that was part of what did it.
Yeah, many of our big crashes have happened
trading.
because of the computerized trading. So yeah, there was another one.
So now they do.
There was another Black Monday in the 90s sometime, and I know that it was because I was at an Anthony Robbins financial seminar on that day. That was the opening day of
that was
the
probably
seminar.
during the recession of 91, 92, and that little area, that recession probably had a big drop in things because remember the first Gulf War was getting ready to go, and of course, and then Bush, he went back on his no new taxes pledge, and that's what lost that.
Yeah.
That's what brought Ross Perot into the race, which the three-way race is why Slick Willie, President Clinton was nominated, was president.
Hey, I just have to make this crazy statement. If my only choice right now was to be able to wave a magic wand and have Bill Clinton back, I'd take him in a heartbeat.
Paul Volcker was great. He was a hard-nosed guy. Yeah, this was great. It really was. So, listen to you, Pitt, the other day on the Senate races. It's going to be really close. This thing in Georgia, the polling's not looking real good afterwards. But the polling is probably 4 points off because of they are sampling a much higher percentage of Democrats. They're trying to create a narrative with the national polling. And so they're polling about 4% more Democrats, and then they're polling like registered voters. Well, registered voters don't matter.
Right.
I've never missed an election since 1972, so I'm what you call a likely vote.
Correct.
So they should be talking to people that are going to vote, not people that are registered. Because if you actually go get a driver's license, they're going to register you to vote. And a lot of those people have never seen a vote.
Yeah, exactly.
They may have gotten a mail-in ballot, but they sold it to whoever could pay them the most money for it.
Yeah. The polls anymore are. You're right. They're a mess. The one race that I just every time I look at it, I think I don't get it. It's the Pennsylvania Senate race. This Fetterman guy. Who would vote for this jackass?
Oz is going to win that race. It's the eyeball test there. There's just no way. I mean, look, the guy took his shotgun when he was mayor, took his shotgun out and held a black jogger, just like what happened down in Georgia when those guys, those yahoos, those rednecks killed that black jogger.
Yeah.
But this happened. He was mayor. And I would have that. That would be on every BET TV station in Pittsburgh and Philly. That because they've got pictures of it.
Yeah.
I mean, and like I say, this is Oz is going to win that. I'm a little worried about Herschel in Georgia.
Yeah,
don't worry about North Carolina, Bud.
That's a tough one.
Don't win in North Carolina. Yeah, we have really trended quite a bit to the north side of the red in North Carolina now a bit, and we will actually turn our Supreme Court around this time. Our Supreme Court has knocked down in the last 12 years 7 times our voter ID laws. We have a voter ID constitutional amendment, and we had a 6-1 Democrat majority in the Supreme Court. They said at the time that our constitutional amendment was unconstitutional. I mean, that happened, but they did. So this next election, we're going to replace 2 more, and we'll have a 5-2 margin in the Republican side. Then and we'll have voter ID at it'll be in at that point. I mean, we're already a supermajority on our legislature. The governor's a Democrat, and I didn't do very well with him. I coached him in Little League back 50 years, 45, 50 years ago.
There you go.
He's from my hometown, and he's the only Democrat. All of my friends in North Carolina, in the hometown, is like 10% of them still support him.
Yeah.
But no, I really think it's going to be about a 52-48 Republican edge. It would be 53-47 if Herschel can win in Georgia, but I feel like we're going to win I feel like for sure we're going to win out in Nevada. I think we're going to win in Pennsylvania. And I think we're going to win. There was another one we were going to flip. But I think we're going to flip a few, and we might get, like I say, your governor out there is going to be a Republican in Oregon, and that's unheard of. I mean,
it's looking like.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm so excited I get to vote for something that might actually happen.
I know, and so I even Nate Silver with 538, he's very liberal, and he said the other day, he said, back in the spring, he said he saw a huge red wave. He said, yeah, there was a little bit that knocked it back with the suburban white female with the abortion ruling, that it kind of maybe pushed things a little bit back blue in some races. But when it comes down to it, he said the things that have not changed are the problems with inflation, the problems people are having, gas prices, the border, the crime, and those things will push. Those people are not going to be single issue voters, and some of them will move back to the red side. And he's still saying now it's going to be a red wave, probably 40 seats in the House and the Senate slightly, slight. Maybe he's saying 51-49, but and he's very liberal, So
right.
I like Trafalgar, that group. That's the best. That's one of the best polling groups out there. And if you listen to that guy, the reason why is they don't overwhelm people with questions. When you get most surveys, they want 40. They want you to spend 40 questions answering that much time answering 40 questions. He limits all of their polls to 7 questions so that they don't have many hangups. And, when people say, yes, it's going to be 40 questions, they get a lot of hangups. And so that's one thing. And he goes right by the registration. He makes sure that he does his polling by the percentage of registration in each state. So he's a lot closer in all the elections, with his polls, him and Rasmussen's another good one. But most of the mainstream media, they're just trying to create a narrative and let the polling, they don't poll things like what people having problems with the crime and people
right.
having problems with the border and things of those kind of things. They're not polling on that stuff much. Internally, all the people are Democrats and Republicans. Their internal polls are always more right than anybody, and so. I think we definitely. Like I say, everybody's got to go through and vote. I mean,
Yep.
There's no doubt about it. But I do think it's going to be a little bit better. I've been concerned at times, but and really, and the Republicans are not our answer to all the questions. I'm very libertarian, but here's the thing: the Republicans didn't give us this mess. We've got to have something to stop the bleeding.
Yeah.
And
yep.
And so and McConnell and McCarthy are not. They're not the long-term answer, but at least they can stop the bleeding. So
that's about the best we can hope for right now. Yeah, exactly. All right, Steve, thanks for the call.
Sure is.
Great stuff. We'll talk to you again soon. We're going to head off to Wisconsin. Jeff, welcome to the program.
Hey, Kevin. I got a tax question, I think, for you. So we're a LLC. I don't know if that matters. I drive a truck with a sleeper on it. I'm thinking about buying this camper, and a guy told me that if I took that camper, just say I run a kind of a dedicated deal, 500 out, 500 back. If I took that camper over to that where I'm out and put it there for a little while, that I could buy that with the company and deduct it. Is that such a thing, or is that baloney?
Well, he's not totally wrong, but parking it there for a little while doesn't have much to do with anything at all. What it really has to do with, are you truly going to use this camper for some sort of business purpose? And if you are, then of course it's deductible.
No.
But if you're not, then no, it's not. I mean, we can't fake it. You either use it for business or you don't. Here's a good example. My coach, we write the majority of the cost of that thing, maintenance, fuel, depreciation, insurance, everything, because almost every time I take it out, it's for business. But that truly is a business use. I mean, that this last trip, I was gone 3 months. I was at Pittsburgh Power. I was at a truck show. I was at truck dealers. I visited, I almost made it to Polyface Farms. We didn't make it out there. I stop and see our partner companies. Yeah, we deduct all of that. That's true business use. But just saying, oh, go park it out where you turn around for a little while, that has nothing to do with anything. If you're not using it for business, you're not using it for business. If you are, then it's deductible.
Right. And so if you use it, just say, I don't know, like say I use it 50% of the time for personal and 50% for, do you then half it or whatever? Depreciate it halfway or what?
The IRS never really addresses this as well as they should. So for vehicles like a car, they make it really clear. You do exactly what you just said. We take a percentage. First, we calculate what percentage do we use the car for business, and then we take that percentage of our expenses, or we can use a mileage allowance. But on these other, things like this, the IRS isn't really clear about it. So we just kind of push the limit on this one. If I have something like this that I use for business, I just treat it like it's all business.
I got you.
How do I, if I'm driving across the country in my coach, how do I determine what's business and what's personal? And like I said, every time I take the coach out, it's business. I make sure of that. This winter, we're going out on what really is kind of a vacation. I want to get out of here in the wintertime. I'm going to head south. We're going to head over to Florida. But all the time we're going to be doing business. Yeah, I do my show from it every day. We're going to stop and see our partners. We're going to stop and see our employees. We're going to, hit some events. So every time I take it out, I make sure we do something business-wise.
Right. And that's what I got you. Okay. I understand. So.
Yeah,
okay.
but this idea that throw some signs on it or go park it out, that has nothing to do with anything. You go park it out there and then you get in an audit someday and the IRS says, what was the business purpose for this? What are you going to tell them?
Right. Yeah, that just nothing because I got a sleeper on my truck, I guess, other than I want to shower or something. I don't know.
And you could do that. Now, listen, if you actually went out there and parked it there and left it there and used it for that reason, to take a nap, to take a shower, to make a meal, whatever, sure, let's deduct it. No doubt. You're using it for business.
Got it. And also, I could do what you're doing it instead of like going to visit, I could go try to trump up more business.
Absolutely. Yeah.
With that camper.
Correct.
Instead of renting hotels, and that would be fine.
Absolutely. Here's the other thing. This is a little different, but it's along the same lines. Anybody who's self-employed should write off all of their vacations, as long as they're within the United States. If you go outside the country, then the rules all change. But if you're vacationing within the United States, you should always deduct them when you're in business. Because all we have to do is while we're on vacation, do a little bit of business, and then all of those expenses become deductible. Like, for example, if you want to take off on a trip with your camper, and you stop in at trucking companies, you stop in at shippers, you stop in at truck dealers, there's all kinds of things we can do. That all becomes business now.
Right. And I definitely do that. I took your advice about that a long time ago. I mean, if I stop. I just wheel in, get their card, and I stick
Absolutely.
it with all the stuff.
Yep.
And so okay. I wanted clarification, and I got it.
There you go.
I really appreciate that, Kevin.
You're welcome. Thanks for the call. All right, so we blew through all the calls we had. I'm going to wait just a couple minutes. But if you want to jump in, you better jump in quick. I'm looking right now, and the wind is totally dead. But from the forecast, we're supposed to start getting some pretty strong winds here in a couple hours. So I'm heading out to the river for the rest of the day. I'm going to play a little hooky from work today, and I'm going to go enjoy a day. Today's supposed to be good, tomorrow possibly, and then after that, it looks pretty dead for the rest of the week. So, all right, we've got a caller coming in right now. I'll go ahead and hang out. I'll take that call. I'm not in too big of a hurry right now, but if I see the wind start blowing out there, might be another story. Looks like I might have the rest of the day, so I might have to go, hit a good session when the wind kicks up, and then I might have to take a nap and go back again. I want to try to maximize the day today, so we'll see what happens. I think I bet the water temperature has dropped quite a bit since the last time I was out there, too. I didn't check that. We're beautiful, beautiful hot summer days here right now in October. It's pretty incredible, but we're getting pretty cold nights. I think we actually dropped into the 40s the other night. So the water's going to get a little colder. I'm going to have to start thinking about getting me a winter wetsuit here soon. Let's grab this call. Let's go to Virginia. John, welcome to the program.
Hey, how you doing? Tax question about working on the truck on the weekends. Is that tax deductible, or is that all my dime?
So, yeah, I get this question a lot. Here's the best way I can explain this. Any parts, supplies, tools, anything you buy to work on that truck, completely deductible. Mileage on your vehicle to go get parts or supplies or anything, that mileage is completely deductible. Your time. How much do you want to charge for your time? What is your time worth?
Yeah, I don't know. Do I go by a shop's rate, $90 an hour or whatever they charge? Or,
it's your business. It's up to you. Pick a number. It's totally up to you. You get to charge anything you want in your own business. So what are you going to pay yourself hourly to work on your truck?
Okay. That's something I'd have to figure out then, what I'm worth.
Well, yeah, but there's more to it. So just pick a number so I can make my point. Pick a number, any number.
Okay. All right. $50 an hour. I'm not a certified mechanic, so.
Perfect. Now, your trucking business gets to deduct $50 an hour as an expense. Your shop business now has to show $50 an hour as revenue.
Okay. So
it's a wash.
Either way, it's going to fight. It's a wash. Okay.
You just created a bunch of paperwork and a headache, and you got no additional deduction.
There's always complaining I'm out there working on the truck all weekend.
No, I get it. I made the choice early on, even though I could work on the truck. I made the choice as soon as I was able to. I stopped. In the beginning, I was under there all weekend, and you got to decide. I decided I was going to do the accounting and run the business and let somebody else fix my trucks for me. So, but there was a time when I had to. I didn't have enough money to pay somebody else. So, but the labor itself, we don't get to deduct, because if we wanted to, we would just have to show it as revenue, and that would just be stupid. So we ignore it.
Right. Okay. All right. That explains a lot then, because I know about the mileage and all the parts.
Yep.
I keep track of all my mileages and stuff.
Perfect. Yep. Then you're all set.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for the call. Let's go to North Carolina this time. Don, welcome to the program.
Hey, good morning, Kevin. Really good to talk to you today. I'm kind of I've talked to you 4, maybe 5 times over the last 18 months about pulling the trigger and going into an owner operator.
Okay.
But I had a couple of things come up. Man, I sure enjoyed your callers today, though. These people really, I had to pause you, and then I learned I had to go back to the link because I couldn't full on pause you and without dropping the program, but to put in information on a note file for I-bonds. And you got some great callers today that even make the show even stronger for me. But
good.
Anyway, Kevin, you told me one of the times, we talked, I told you that my wife had traded in her heels and turned them in for wheels and had become a team driver with me. And now we're up to about 22 months together team driving for a company. And I've wanted to pull the trigger for going into owner op. And I know that you and I have had some conversation about my favorite truck being a Freightliner. And then I was blown out of the water one day when I was listening to you, and you said, if I were buying a truck today, it'd be a Volvo. And then reading Joel Morrow's post on Facebook and stuff, I've seen where that I-Torque truck that he's doing, it's kind of made me a little interested in a Volvo. But also, then I ended up having a diagnosis of kidney cancer that ended up taking about 10% of my right kidney about back in March. So I've had my 90-day, and I go in December for my 6-month checkup and scan, and then I probably want to get a 9-month. So I can't even move quite yet, but my gosh, I so want to jump off the line and go forward.
So,
do you have any guidance for me? I mean, I had a dealer last time I talked to you. You said you want to get an oil sample, engine, transmission, front differential, rear differential. I presented that to a dealer, and he said to me, Kevin, Don, I don't have enough bandwidth for you. I got people standing in line wanting to buy trucks from me. And then my assessment of the market is watching truck lots start to fill up as my wife and I continue to be company drivers in the OTR capacity going, wow, so trucks are going to come down in price. What do you think about all this stuff?
So, Don, let me ask you this. You and I talked several times. We've talked before about this, and I told you to hold off, right?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. So the last time the market was in really good shape, and that we talked, and you were having those guys come in from truckstop.com or whatever, and they're we see a pretty bright load future, but now I think it might have fallen off some.
But short-term future. I mean, since 2017, I've been telling people hold off because I felt like we've been at the top. Yeah. Now, the top lasted a long time because of COVID and government money and all kinds of other crazy stuff, so we're in a weird place. But my advice is still going to be the same. It's not time yet. It's time to get ready. And, really, read more books, take more online courses, ask more good questions, shop for trucks so you know the market. Really get your business plan down in writing. Take your time. That's the beauty of this right now. You don't need to be in a hurry. In fact, the more time you take on each step right now, the better off you're going to be. You have another huge advantage in this. Husband and wife teams, it's so much easier to make money. It just is. I mean, that is a big advantage on the business side of things.
And I've been, I've taken your free course, and then my wife bought me for Christmas a couple of years ago the course with the CD and the workbook, and we've worked through that and
work through it again.
We don't actually have it all in writing because that's what I was going to say. Work through it again. Now these trucks don't have CD players in them, and so I have to figure out a way to get it over onto my phone at home, but to re-listen.
The course is also completely online now. So everything is online.
Okay.
Yeah. So work through that whole thing again. Every chapter, get it all in writing. If you have it in writing, tweak it, do it again, and take your time. You are in a really good position right now. You really are. There, 6 months from now, trucks are going to be cheaper. There's going to be more freight available, and you're going to find yourself in a really good position.
Well, I was listening to that caller before that a few minutes ago that said, "Hey, I told my wife when you're buying online, just buy 4 times worth of it." And I heard you say one time, "Hey, when you buy stuff right now with maybe not hyperinflation, but such inflation it could actually. And I'm like, gosh, am I holding off too long? Am I missing out? Is this truck going to cost
not
me
yet.
$50,000 next week? Not yet. Okay.
Yeah, prices are coming down
Kevin,
on
you've
trucks.
Been a Freightliner.
Yeah, so let me go back over that because I do want to go back over that. Here's the history on. I actually started buying Volvos in the early 90s and loved them. Talked about Volvos for years, all through the 90s. Volvo was one of my big sponsors on my seminars for years. The reason that changed, the only reason it changed, was I bought my last new Volvo on the last day you could order it with a Series 60 in it. When Volvo dropped the Detroit engines, and they dropped it because Freightliner bought them, so, Volvo didn't have any choice. When Volvo could no longer put a Detroit engine in their trucks, that's when I stopped buying them. Because to me, as much as I loved the Volvo truck itself, I wanted that engine. I wanted a Detroit. So at that point, the only trucks you could buy with Detroit engines were owned by Freightliner. So Freightliner, Western Star, that was it. So I had to make that decision. I didn't like the truck nearly as much, but I wanted that engine. Then when we started doing the show with Joel and I started learning about the Volvo engine technology, I tried. When the Volvo engine first came over to the U.S., I tried to work with it. It was horrible. I couldn't figure it out. Couldn't get any fuel economy out of it. Didn't have any power. Nobody liked them. So I kind of gave up on them. Then when I started working with Joel and I started to understand how different the architecture of that engine was and why we had to spec it very differently, but if we did, that's a really impressive engine. So now that I've got an engine I'm happy with at Volvo, oh, hell yeah, if I were going to buy a new truck today, it would be a new Volvo with the Volvo driveline.
And one of the things that I've been partial to these Freightliners because that's what I've driven as a company driver this whole time, and they're a little bigger, especially with us teaming together. The space is so important. But one of the things I remember in the course, in the paid course that my wife had got me for Christmas is, as you're speccing a truck, if you're in a team operation, have to be putting more miles, maybe you wouldn't want to buy as old of a truck, a little bit newer truck. And I just got to thinking, I wonder, I ran into an owner operator last night last night who was waiting to deliver this morning where I was delivering at one of my company's yards. And he said, yeah, this load paid me from Seattle to Richmond, paid me $6,000. And I told my wife this morning, I said, we could have made that run in 2.5 days and made $6,000. And this guy was complaining that he would have made $11,000 on this run a year ago, and now he's only making $6,000. He was disappointed.
Well,
and I thought,
hold on. Not only
I need to work the numbers again.
Not only was he disappointed, those are the people that are in danger of going out of business. They got in and thought that $11,000 is the way the world works, and it doesn't. And they didn't ask all the good questions that you're asking. They didn't take a course. They're not taking their time. Those are the people who have bought trucks in the last 3 or 4 years that are going to struggle. Anybody buying trucks now is really going to struggle because now they're starting at a worse point. Prices are too high. So 6 months. I'm thinking 6 months. I'm going to be helping an awful lot of people find used trucks.
Okay. Well, my company pays my wife and I. And with that, again, I had that.
Let's think about one more.
So I want to
think about one more thing when it comes to truck prices. As crazy as it sounds, I just reported that September we just set a record for truck orders. You know what that means? Those are all fleet orders, and every one of those fleets is going to be turning in all their used trucks, right? So used truck prices are going to go down.
My company is a debt-free company with 5,000 trucks in their fleet. They had no trucks for sale a few months back. We hit a deer about 2 months ago, and we had to go to one of our yards to get a new truck. They put us in a truck with 15 miles on it, and they had 60 trucks that were being decommissioned, ready for sale.
There you go.
I was like, what?
Yep.
What?
That's
and they
what's
have
going to
them on
happen.
the company's website, and even they try to actually help our drivers if we decide to go owner op. Try to help us get into one.
That's
which,
excellent.
Sometimes we can actually talk to the driver with history
That's-
on it and knows the
Right.
truck number or whatever. Can give us that one's been a great truck.
That's
or what have
excellent.
you.
Yeah.
I just don't know if her and I being a team would be
Look,
advised to step into a truck with 550,000 miles on it, or
Let me give you my take on this. If you came to me right now and it's 6 months from now, prices are where we think they should be, and you call and say, what kind of truck should I buy? I would not be afraid of putting you in a truck with 1 million miles on it. Wouldn't bother me at all. As long as it's the right price. If it's got 1 million miles, I better get it at a really good price. And if I do, well, then I can afford in a year or two to do an in-frame on it if I have to. So I don't worry about that. I mean, honestly, if I find a really solid truck at 1.3 million miles, I'd buy it. It's not going to last me as long. We'll end up replacing it, but I'm not going to pay much for it either. Yeah, go ahead.
That brings up one more question for me too, Kevin. And I know you and I both have a history from the Atlanta area. I got my buddy that owns a shop up in Roswell. Been featured on the front of Atlanta magazine 2 different years as the best place in Metro Atlanta, which there's a lot of shops there to have your car repaired. I never ever question whether it's 100% perfect when I take my vehicle there. And I get the same gut feeling when I listen to the Power Hour and the people that you engage on Tuesdays with Pittsburgh Power. And I think, hey, I end up in a Freightliner, I know that I can run through there and get I can route through there and get top-notch care in the truck, well washed, like keeping a finger on its pulse. And I don't necessarily have that feel about the rest of the country. But then I don't have that feel with Pittsburgh Power because Bruce doesn't seem to be. He said before on the programs that Volvo doesn't work with them as well. And so while I love Joel, the fact that Joel will actually work on it with you as a consultant, helping you source and spec the right truck for your operation on a Volvo line, I'd miss the fact that I wouldn't be able to route through necessarily for care from the Pittsburgh Power team.
Yeah, so
I've listened to you guys with them, and I just really
here's a great example of how not being in a hurry right now can be to our advantage. So I'll use myself as an example. Let's say that I'm in your position right now. I'm starting to put this business together. I'm going to pull the trigger within the next 6 months to a year, and I'm trying to decide what truck should I be looking for. Well, my first choice will be a Volvo. A well-spec'd, turbo-compounded Volvo, not new. It's going to be a year or 2 old, maybe even 3 or 4. I'm going to go back as far as I can to get that turbo-compound set up. And what I would do right now is I would be working with Joel. I would find the shops that he recommends. I would figure out where they are. And I may even go take that vacation, tax deductible, and go visit that shop and say, I'm thinking about becoming an owner-operator. I'd really like to buy a Volvo truck, but I want a good shop I can build a relationship with. And you start talking to them. And maybe we'll find one that works into a good lane that you'd be able to go to on a pretty regular basis. If I started that process, and I just couldn't find the right shop, it just didn't feel right. I couldn't find a shop. It's not in the right place. Well, then I might switch. Okay, let's go spec a Freightliner then. Because now I can make Pittsburgh Power my shop, and I'll get there often. And so Joel and I have both talked about that and both said, as much as we like that truck, if we couldn't get a good shop, we would look at a different truck.
So Joel's probably got an inside look at that because he's been so well in tune to all their specs and what have you.
Well, Joel has the benefit of the shop right there at their company that he can use. And they know Volvo's inside now because that's all they've bought and spec'd for years. So he has that advantage. He's got the inside scoop at a lot of dealers. But again, you have time. You have time to say,
Right.
Let's go look. Let's talk about it. Let's see if there's a shop I can build a relationship with. And if there's not, then plan B is, okay, let's look at the next truck we would like to own. Can we find a good shop for them?
Well, it looks like it's going to work out timing-wise with my medical checkups. I got my 6-month eval and another CAT scan going on in December, January, and then probably about April. And my wife will meet her 2 years in the business in January. And so
Excellent.
far, we've adjusted pretty well to tiny home living. We run 21 days at a time and go home for 5.
That's awesome.
And our company is phenomenal to work for. So it's been an incredible training ground to work in and to work, to work under their umbrella and have that kind of as like a safeguard while we continue to investigate the future stream.
You have all of the advantages. I predict a lot of times when I'm talking to people who's going to succeed as owner-operators and who's going to fail. And I'm pretty good at it. I can predict this pretty accurately most times. I will say right now, when you decide to do this, you'll succeed. You have all the advantages.
Oh, thank you.
Now, you really do. You're asking good questions. You're looking at all the important things. You're looking at timing. It's a husband and wife team. You're already doing it. It would be almost impossible for you to fail if you just keep doing what you're doing.
Well, you know that term that realtors sometimes use when they're trying to help a person find a house with analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
Like they just can't find exactly that right place. I kind of feel like I'm wired as a person with such a level of caution. I'm like, am I being lizard brain about this, or am I being my normal cautious self to make sure and cross T's and dot I's?
Here's the thing I would say about that. I'm the exact opposite. I tend to be too impulsive, too impatient. I have to work really hard to control that. For me, I'm a risk taker. What tends to happen, so in one sense, you're far better off with your personality. You will not fail. And that's just what I just said. Just from talking to you, I just said you're not going to fail. And you're not. I'm more likely to fail in a new venture than you are because I'll take far more risks. That's just me. You're being very, very cautious. And at some point, you do have to pull the trigger if you want to succeed. But I can tell you, when you do, you will succeed.
Well, that's great to hear. I was a retail manager for 30 years.
That's excellent experience.
For a wholesale club.
Excellent experience.
And one of them even actually had a Michelin shop in it. So when I listen to you guys talk about air pressure and stuff, I'm like, man, some of this stuff from when I went to Michelin school is coming back to me. They have a school where they take retailers to in South Carolina at Greenville and let you and teach you about tire and sidewalls and pressure and all that. And then they actually take you, or at least when I went to it, they let you go out to this place on their property where they bought a closed down airport, and they let you take 3 different Tauruses for a ride, a white one, a red one, and a blue one with different, and you get here's the cones, go as fast as you want to through there. And it's such a fun outing, but
I spent a week there. Had an absolute ball.
Oh, wow.
Not only did I get to do the car tracks, like you said, we did it in 3 different Mustangs. We got to do like we got to do kind of the road race course. We got to do the wet track, which was a big oval that has the biggest sprinkler system I've ever seen in my life. They flood the track, and you go out and test everything wet. So we got to test the difference between duals and wide singles. When we did it in a straight truck, like a 26-foot straight truck. And we would take the straight truck out on the wet track, and you would drift it. You would the whole point was to crash the truck. So you would push and push and push. Wow. You'd keep going faster and faster each lap until you actually started to break traction in the corners. And then you could see the duals and the wide singles would break traction at almost the exact same speed. But the difference was the wide singles were much more controllable. The duals kept trying to snap back real hard, and the wide singles, you could put it into a nice controlled drift. We got to do a track
So you were
where
bobtailing.
no, it was a 26-foot straight truck.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was actually very easy to control in a drift because it's so long. It's really hard to, completely
But you were-
spin that thing out. Then we got to do
You were treating it like you were out there in a Subaru or out there in a
Exactly,
Miata or something.
right.
You were literally
right.
running it so hard to see if you could lose traction.
Yeah, we were drifting them and then seeing if you could, and several times you would just lose control completely, spin out backwards, all kinds of crazy stuff. We took a tractor trailer, flatbed, loaded with 80,000 pounds, and they had a big long oval with two long straightaways, and on the straightaways they had cones set up and they would force you into a high speed lane change. Like if you didn't turn sharp enough to make the lane change, you just wiped out all the cones. If you did turn sharp enough to make the lane change, we were doing like 65, you could feel the tractor sliding out from under you. That was a really scary feeling. At that speed, to feel making such a hard lane change. And again, we got to test the difference between wide singles and duals. What else did we get to do? We got to just a ton of stuff on the tracks. I had a ball doing that.
They let us observe mounting those tires on those big 18-wheeler size, those big truck tires. We only got to drive the little Ford Tauruses, but we still had a blast. And again, there's certain takeaways that'll pop into my head, like if you take one thing away today, underinflated tires kill people.
Yep.
And I have been in my semi truck here, and I happened to look out my rear window one time at one of my passenger side axles on the trailer, and right when a tire blew.
Oh, wow.
And the person in an SUV next to me lost their lane. It scared them so bad.
Oh, I'll bet.
And immediately that said to me, you check this tire pressure all the time and make sure it's right, because these underinflated tires, even on your vehicle, will kill somebody else because it scared them so bad.
Yeah.
And it's been so many little takeaways from those things over the past life.
Good.
Kevin, it's been a pleasure talking to you today, because I don't. When you were on the other format, it was tough to sometimes get so many questions in. I really appreciate the fact that you're offering the platform that you are now, and you're archiving the messages where we can actually, go back and listen. That's awesome.
It's one of those things that I don't know why I just didn't do this 3 years ago, honestly.
Wow.
It's just tough to give that up. That was a big deal, the contract. That's serious. I worked hard to get that. I had it for a lot of years, worked hard at it. Was pretty grateful when I got the better hours. But honestly, now that I'm doing what I'm doing and looking at it, we should have just done this 3 years ago.
And you've always got the mobility, too, of being, like you were saying, you're getting ready to go south for the cooler months. And, and you can just keep right on broadcasting every day, right from your coach.
Yep. I'm taking a trip. I'll be gone, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks. I have 2 speaking engagements back to back. I have one in Memphis and then one in Nashville. And I'm going to take the train there. I'll probably fly back. I haven't decided for sure yet, but more than likely I'll fly back. But I'll be gone, 10 days maybe total, 10 days to 2 weeks. But I'll take my equipment with me and I'll keep broadcasting. So we're pretty happy with this. And I think, from a listener's point of view, no commercials, which I think is just awesome. And everything we do now is available forever. It's funny. I'm looking across the river. The train that I'll be taking at the end of the month is just going by the opposite way. It's heading west now into Portland. But I can see it. It's right across the river. I can see the Amtrak when it goes by in the morning. That's the train I'll be on.
Wow. Hey, Kevin, when I click on the link in the text message you send me, I don't think I've shared that with my friends that are also drivers. Can I just copy and paste that, or do they have to download something for it to work in their smartphone? Can they just click the link?
I don't know what's going to happen if they click that link and they don't have the app downloaded yet. That's the only. I'd have to go try it myself. So I just don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, so they do need to download our app, but I don't know what will happen if they click on a link before they have the app.
Right. Okay. Well, I'll tell them to keep working on it. But again, thank you, Kevin. I'm coming up on my exit here in Raleigh, and again, so much information. I appreciate you giving me the time and covering so much with me. And I'll just hold tight and watch things unfold over the next 6 months.
There you go. Call me every week. We'll talk about it.
All right, Kevin.
All right. Take care.
All right, man. Have a good day.
Talk to you soon. All right. So I think that's going to do it. I think I'm going to get my gear together and head down to the river, hoping for a big wind day today. I'll let you know tomorrow. We'll see you then. The Power Hour tomorrow. The Pit this week will be a recorded podcast. I don't have a time set for that yet. We'll let you know. Be safe, be profitable, be fit and healthy. Always do the hard work and master the journey.